Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Tom Stewart here. I'm with Liz Trotter, and this is Smart Business Moves.
Woohoo! Hey y'all. Okay.
And we're live. It is August 10th, and this is Leadership Month.
Yay.
And we're going to be bringing leadership today.
Tom, you and I really do both like this topic. So even though we got thrown a little curveball today, this is a good topic, I think, for us to get a little curveball on.
Yeah, we're going to have fun with this. We've
Yeah.
dug out some of our favorite leadership books, and we're going to be talking about them. And I guess our audience can participate as well. And we can drop some titles in chat and do a little deep dive on that. But you know what today is?
I bet some kind of data came from somewhere that we need to hear about.
Today is the day that the Consumer Price Index numbers come out every month.
All right. Why don't you know what, Tom? Have you ever explained to the audience what the Consumer Price Index is?
It's a survey. No, I probably haven't. We'll take just a second to do that.
Yeah.
This is done through the Department of Labor. Not sure why. Maybe they didn't know where else to stick it. But there is. That didn't sound right. They didn't know where else. Maybe that's a logical place. I don't know. It doesn't really seem like a labor thing to me. It seems like it's more of a commerce thing, but it is tied to employment. That's a component of it. But there is what they call a basket of goods. And I don't know what that is exactly. I could probably Google it and figure it out. But it's a representative sample of stuff that consumers buy, hence Consumer Price Index. And it measures the change in price from those items from 1 month to the next. And also compares it from this month, this year to August of, well, in this case, it would be July of last year. And the whole thing is if the price goes up, if the average price increase is 5% higher this year for that same basket of goods than what it was last year, then inflation is 5%. And we've been tracking those numbers recently because the numbers have been getting high. The year-over-year number for June was like 9.1%, which is as high as we've seen it in like 40 some years. You have to go back to like the early 80s to find a number that high. And I guess I kind of remember the early 80s, but I really wasn't worried about the cost of
stuff
then. At least not the stuff that you would find in the basket of goods.
Maybe. Because just a quick Google tells us that the things that are in the basket of goods only stay in there for 4 years. And then they come out. And then
do you have a list of some of the things that's in the basket of goods?
Well, I thought it was actually pretty interesting. So it changes all the time based on the different prices. So items for sampling at each outlet are selected randomly based on odds proportional to how much spending they attract relative to category alternatives in terms of brand, variety, and size or weight. So it changes, and there are a total, this is interesting, I thought, basic indexes for a 211 goods, services, and housing item categories for 32 geographic areas, subdividing all U.S. urban areas. So it's a pretty big deal when they're choosing these. There's a lot of reading here. That's just what I got, off the quick Google search. But when they try to deconstruct the basket of goods, that's not an easy answer. So it's not like corn. I was expecting 211 things. Corn, rent, something, but no.
And there are different components of it, and some segments are up a lot more than others. Housing, especially like rent type housing, is double digits, crazy expensive, which is taking money away from the consumer for other things. there's two CPI numbers. One is the overall number, and then they have another number they call the core consumer price index, where you know, why they do this, I'm not sure, but they take out energy, which includes gasoline, fuel. They take out food because those are typically more volatile.
Okay.
And so the core was like 6.1%, I believe, which was a 5%, I mean 0.5%, a 0.5% increase over what it was a month ago. No, a year ago rather. It's 0.3% over month to month. So the core is going up higher, and supposedly that's what the Federal Reserve looks at more when they're figuring out how much they want to raise their interest rates. So the inflation numbers dropped, but I'll share my screen here and show you a graph just so we don't get too excited. Just because the rate of inflation dropped doesn't mean that the problem is fixed. That just means that the graph has dropped here and it was up here. It's still
Way high.
extremely high compared to, historically what it has been over the last 10
Yeah.
plus years.
Wow, that is
So
crazy high. I really like the graph. The graph really illustrates it well and quickly. Dang.
we've got a long way to go before we're out of the woods on this and prices. And this means that prices are still going to continue to go up for the foreseeable future. There's people are thinking that it might be a couple of years down the road before we actually see inflation rates getting down to 2%. 2% is kind of what the Federal Reserve wants it to be. So they're going to continue to raise interest rates, maybe not as bigger increases as what they've had recently, but maybe they will. We really don't know. There's a speculation that the jobs market will be cooling off because of all of this, and I've been just reading that supposedly, more and more, not supposedly, more and more companies have been announcing that they're going to be like doing some layoffs or stop hiring, and supposedly the labor market's getting softer. Have you heard much from the people you work with in your success circles? Are they having an easier time finding technicians these days?
So everybody has in a much better state right now. Everybody, there are about 65 people in the circles, and across the board, I would say 97% of all of the companies are like, yeah, things are better. We are either fully staffed or overstaffed, but people still aren't unnervous, right? They're still like, how's it? Nobody has confidence that it's going to stay this way for long, just because coming off of such hard hiring times.
Yeah.
So people are still nervous.
I'm guessing it's going to get easier and easier to find people. I mean, saying easier, it's a relative term. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but I'm thinking it's going to be, relative sense that there's going to be more people in the marketplace looking for work, which is good news. On the flip side of it, as inflation goes up and people are, fuel prices are down, that's a good thing, but housing costs, especially rental rates, are going up at an alarming rate. And when people are having to make decisions,
if you have rentals, that's a good thing.
Yeah, that's good news for.
I'm not bemoaning that one, Tom. And we went through a period of time too when it was a real struggle to get people to pay their rent. So it's kind of like, this seems fair, right? This seems really fair if you have rentals. So, okay. So
that's what we have to look forward to. And tomorrow, the producer price index number comes out, and it'll be interesting to see, if that's, so thinking that number is going to come down a little bit too, because a lot of that gets into commodities and raw materials and stuff that, as a rule, those prices have been coming down quite a bit.
Okay, so Tom, so let's take this information that we got that you brought to us. Thank you. And how do we translate that into our topic of the month, leadership, right? How do we use that information as the leaders of our companies? What do we need to be thinking about, talking about, planning for? Any thoughts there?
One of the key responsibilities, we talk about this in foundations, and when we do foundations next March, one of the things we'll be
Yeah.
talking about is, what are the job responsibilities of a CEO? We talk about leadership. The CEO is the head leader in every organization. And there are a lot of business owners that join us in Smart Business Moves. We don't always think of ourselves as CEOs, but we are. We're
That's
the
it.
top officer, the top manager, top leader in our business. And probably not probably, the most important thing that the CEO needs to do within the organization is lead the strategic planning part of the business. And as the labor market changes, as prices change, as consumer ability to buy your service changes, all of that really gets into your strategy. And what is your current strategy, and what adjustments do you need to make to your strategy based upon changing conditions? We should all have a plan, and we all should have started our year with a plan and a budget. And these are the major rocks, if you will, that we were going to be managing in our business throughout the year. But it's really important to keep an eye on the situation that your business is doing business in. And as the situation changes, as you get new data, if the situation changes, you need to often change with it.
Modify, right? And you at least have to be looking at it and thinking about, how is this going to impact me and our business? Do we need to change? And if we do, what do we need to change? Mm-hmm. So you can be looking at it, and I think the biggest thing there is you need to have it be a plan, and not, even if your plan's not right, a plan that is not the perfect plan is better than no plan where you're just being buffeted by whatever comes along, right? So I think a lot of times, at least what I run into in the circles, is people don't want to create a plan because they don't know. But I don't know what's going to happen. Nobody knows. Nobody knows what's going to happen. It's not, you think anybody had a clue that COVID was going to happen the way that it did? Right?
Unprecedented event, right?
And everybody's plans were like, poof, gone. That's it. I have no idea. Scrap that, start over. But that's okay. You have a place to start from. So you got to have something to start from and move forward.
But what's really, really kind of awesome about that is a lot of the businesses that I work with, that I know, made a lot of changes in their business model and their strategy because of COVID to help them better deal with it. And as part of that, they're a lot more efficient. They're a lot more profitable now. They're generating more gross profit off of the homes that they clean. It's a combination of pricing. It's a combination of better using their workforce, solo cleaners, driving their own car, leaving from home, which is a competitive advantage moving into the situation we have now with inflation and our costs going up. Our labor rates are still going up. Salaries are still going up. The numbers that came out today show that salaries are still going up. We're going to have to pay more in the future than we are now to hire the same talent. Okay, fine. We're going to have to either be more efficient with that so we can generate more revenue with the same amount of labor, or we need to raise our rates. And in part, to answer your question, we've been beating that drum for a good while now, but we need to improve our pricing, raise our rates. We still need to be doing that.
Yeah.
And it's going to get harder though once if the leads start slowing down a little bit. If we don't. I'm starting to see some numbers that lead me to believe that there is from the industry, maybe we're starting to see a little bit of slowdown in the demand for house cleaning services. It would stand to figure that would happen because of there's only so much money to go around, and
Right.
for some people, they're having to make a decision that they need to cut back on their house cleaning service.
Well, I think another thing that we're seeing more of too is people get nervous, and so they either pause or cancel their cleaning. Not to say they won't come back again when they realize, oh, I don't know how to clean. I don't want to clean,
Yeah.
right? But they get nervous and they kind of panic. So I know that over the course of June and July, quite a few of the companies that I work with saw like, wow, lost numbers that they had not seen and they weren't anticipating. They weren't expecting that. And also decreased leads coming in. Like, oh, okay, gonna have to put a little bit more money out to get those leads, or at least got to put a little focus there. Gonna have to start doing something more than just letting it run on autopilot. So we are seeing that.
And the traditional reaction to that is, okay, demand's starting to soften. I better back off on the rates that I'm charging.
Yeah.
I would argue that, I mean, it depends. There's a lot of different ways you can apply that. The top line, what you're charging per hour, maybe you need to slow that down a little bit. But you always have homes that you're providing service to on a recurring basis that are underpriced, and we want to be looking at those regardless. And if you do that using the right tools, you can basically replace the gross profit that you're getting off of those several times over by doing rate increases. You might wind up cleaning fewer homes and making more money doing it. And
all right, I'm really glad you brought that up, because that is a real sticking point for people. They're like, they don't want fewer customers. They constantly are focusing on that customer number. I want to grow my customer base. I've got 300 customers. I want 350. I've got 350. I want 400. But really, you and I are always saying, you need to focus more on, you focus more on gross profit, and I'm always focusing more on net profit, right? I'm like, I want you to reduce expenses too and get more money in your purse there. Yes, Tom, make sure that you have more money in your purse, so that
you used to see my purse.
I have seen your purse. It's very large, looks like a briefcase, but neither here nor there. But you're always focusing really much more on gross profit. Like, let's just be making more money off of each labor hour that we're sticking out there in the world, right? Let's have more money coming back to us from that.
That gross profit is the fuel that powers everything. All the good stuff that you aspire to do in your business. We all had these visions of the good that we were going to do in the world and for our families and for ourselves by being entrepreneurs and owning our own business. Then you start doing it and you get smacked upside the head with the reality of how hard it is, and you get smacked up beside the head enough you can't even forget what it was that you were trying to do when you started to do it. But all those good things that you were aspiring to when you started all happen with gross profit. That's how you make better jobs. That's how you provide better service. That's how you provide a better living and value for yourself for taking the risk of owning a business. And the operating expenses are an issue. That's important too. But I guess having studied the numbers and have coached a number of cleaning businesses over the years, the ones that are struggling to pay the bills, not all the time, but more time than not, it's a gross profit issue. They're not making enough money on the homes they're cleaning rather than some expense item.
Absolutely. I totally agree. If they don't get that payroll percent to revenue number in check, it doesn't really matter anything else. That's got to be the first concern. It's the number one place that everybody has to hit. It's just too large of a chunk of the money that's leaving your company or our companies. Focus on the gross profit from recurring clients and the quality of service during these inflationary times. Hey, Robin, good to see you.
Good to see you, Robin. Thanks for being here. Absolutely.
Yeah.
more so now than ever, because it's very possible that it's going to be a little bit tougher very early to say to what degree and how bad and for how long. But I think that we're starting to see it a little bit in the numbers. I think that
Well, you do see a lot of numbers. I mean, you're a data guy anyway, and you enjoy looking at all those numbers. So you do spend a lot of time looking at it. I mean, I always look to you to know what's going on, just because I know you do look at all of that stuff all the time. And you do have numbers to look at.
Well, we've started doing this program in MaidCentral called McDrive. I'm kidding.
That's what I came up with, like, immediately. I was like, "Oh, McDrive. He's going to talk about McDrive."
where we help users of MaidCentral see, what we refer to them as core KPIs, but where their numbers are and where they potentially could be relative to other people that use MaidCentral. And it's kind of a coaching program. It is a coaching program, and we get an opportunity to look at a lot of numbers as part of that. And the revenue number might be the number of homes. The number of homes are being cleaned each month, be more precisely, is showing that it's starting to tick down a little bit.
All right, so let's talk about that, though, because that's kind of what we started with, is the idea that it's okay you shouldn't be focusing on the number of homes as much. What, Tom?
No, I'm just laughing because, and here's the other part of that story for those of you who don't know. Our pricing model in MaidCentral is really based upon the number of homes you clean each month. And I've noticed that a number of our partners aren't quite cleaning as many homes each month as they notice. It's like, our billing, the MaidCentral billing has dropped a little bit.
Yeah, MaidCentral doesn't make as much money.
Where do we come up with that pricing model? I don't know.
So you know what, though? I think it works really well, because you're going to be really focused on helping people to get more clients. But it is funny that you're focusing on number of clients instead of like making more money and gross profit.
Right. I'm doing the wrong thing. It's like, don't worry about, you raise your rates, clean for your homes, make more money. That's good for them. MaidCentral makes less money, but that's okay.
I don't know. I think you're talking yourself into price increases. Is that what I just heard? Yeah, you're not going to be popular today, Tom. Sorry.
No plans for that.
What's Robin saying here? I got to click.
Let's see. Also focusing on low-cost marketing efforts, email and door hangers. Interesting. Is that working for you, Robin?
Yeah, I want to hear about that too.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people are doing some door hanger work, a lot more than we had seen over the past couple of years. More monthly clients being added. Yeah. That seems like that's kind of a normal thing that'll happen. People can't afford to have their houses cleaned twice a month because they're struggling a little bit. Email is working. Oh, wow. Email is working. That's awesome. What's your rate on email? Tell us some numbers. Open rate, return rate. What are you doing there? I'd love to hear about that. Email has been such a dog for like the last couple of years. Love to hear that that's working again.
Yeah, there's just changes. I understand like Gmail has been making some changes that's making it a little bit harder to get open rate. Yeah, everybody's working against us from digital marketing, Apple and everything they're doing on that side, they've made changes to make digital marketing more difficult.
I don't know what they're doing, Tom. What are they doing?
Apple. Well, this is more on the ad side, and particularly tying into Facebook marketing. They're making it a lot more difficult to do Facebook marketing, not necessarily email, but I understand Google is doing some things to make email more difficult to.
Yeah. Everybody wants their piece of the pie. Everybody wants to be making a little bit more money. So.
But I heard that the Justice Department is looking at charging Google with some forget exactly what it was, but it had something to do with monopolistic practices. And
Oh,
so
wow.
I don't know if
Okay.
that helps this or not,
All
but
right. How
some
could
of the
that not help us? That would have to help us.
yeah, some of the other like Handy or
Mhm.
Angie rather.
Yeah.
Like I get the guy who Oseen Hanrahan who used to run
And, yeah.
Handy that got bought by Angie, and now Oseen runs. He's the CEO of Handy, but companies like that are getting all over Google because it's not really a fair shake. Google's getting more into, hey, you don't need to go those guys. We here we'll recommend
Uh,
vendors to you. As a
oh,
side note, I saw an interview from them this morning, and they're talking about that the demand for the services they sell is dropping, but the number of home service contractors that are signing up with Angie is
yeah.
going up pretty sharply, which means they're not getting as much work as they used to through their normal channels.
And they're feeling like they have to reach
Yeah.
out because Angie is not. Oh, that makes sense though.
I mean, that's not just house cleaning, that's
Right.
home
But
service.
that kind of speaks to what we were talking about, that things are tightening, right?
Yeah.
When they start going to places like Angie. Do you think with inflation that we are reaching a ceiling on price increases to be passed on to clients? We're just talking a little bit about that.
No, I wouldn't look at it that way. We need to be mindful. I mean, it's you know econ 101. You raise your prices, that increases the supply side. It's easier to hire people because theoretically you can pay more.
And
The
more.
demand is going to go down, but we need to look at price increases more tactically. Everybody has customers that should be getting a rate adjustment. That's my belief. We should always be doing rate adjustments. We talk about you should always be recruiting. Yeah, you should always be recruiting, but you should always be doing rate adjustments. We in the MC Live event, the MaidCentral Live event that we've done the last several times, most recently a few weeks ago. You were in town. You
Yeah.
did your event as well. We show a graph, and we see this from company to company, where you can look at the average revenue per hour for a recurring home, and it can look like a solid number. It might be like $60-$70. I was like, wow, that is awesome. But you graph it from the home that's got the lowest revenue per hour to the home that's got the highest revenue per hour. You got a ton of homes that are down there $30-$40 an hour per
Yeah.
labor hour. And if you raise those rates, you do rate adjustments there, then you can go from, you can increase your average rate by $6 or $7 in the examples that we've shown. And on bottom line, basically, you're doubling your net profit if you're able to do that. And you can do it. I mean, if you think about how hard you have to work over the course of the month, to do all the things that you need to do to clean all of the homes that you need to clean and get those people to pay you and pay your bills and have something left over, and say that you can double that amount just by doing some rate adjustments, it's silly not to do that little extra step.
Yeah.
So,
People are so afraid that of losing customers, and actually just that they're just afraid of losing customers, that it's hard to get past that. I wish we could. Tom, actually, I'm going to challenge you. This is something that you are really good at. You need to find a way to create some sort of a visualization for people to be able to understand how it is more important to raise your rates and clean. You are better off cleaning fewer jobs and making more money. People just can't grasp that idea. They kind of get it when you're talking. They're like, yes, that makes sense. That makes sense. Now it's time to do price increases, but I don't want to lose any clients. Right? They can't get the things together there.
okay, Liz,
You, Tom.
this is going to sound like we scripted this, but if anybody that really knows how we do this knows that couldn't happen because we never script anything. That would require too much work.
Separate foundations.
So yeah, that's true. Foundations, we do script that.
All right. I love it. What do we got here, Tom?
we have, let me see if I can.
Yeah, make it bigger. It's hard when the numbers are so tiny.
Yeah,
I have a huge screen. My business partner made me go out and buy this ginormous screen.
I'm working from the office. It's kind of silly. I've got my, so I never work here anyway, but I need to start. I need to start coming in the office
A
more.
little bit.
Is
I
this,
never do either. It's terrible. All right, bigger. You can make it bigger because look, you have the whole right hand side of your screen is.
yeah, but some things are going to be falling off, but
They are
we'll,
okay.
we'll make this work.
Okay. Oh, that's so much better, Tom.
Okay, so the format that we typically use when we build spreadsheets for modeling is the numbers that we're supposed to change are kind of this peach color, and that's kind of a convention that that Excel uses. So we just stick with it, and everything else here calculates. And the way this works is, say you've got a bill rate per job, and we'll just make it up and say $200 a job. I think that's maybe that's a little high for most people. Call it
High for us.
175 as an average.
Yeah.
Take the company that's maybe they're doing 500 jobs a month. Okay.
Okay.
So what would be happening there is 500 jobs a month at 175. That would be a revenue of 87,500 a month revenue. Let's pretend that your payroll to revenue number is 40%. Okay. So at that point, your cost of goods sold would be 35,000.
Okay.
Payroll to revenue is a proxy for cost of goods sold. Do I need to explain that more? I mean, if you were with us
Yeah.
a year or so ago, we took a walk through the wilderness for like a month talking about this. I still have nightmares.
Was it only a month?
Could have been longer.
All right, so I know so we're running into this a little bit. So I do want to clarify this. So a lot of you have bookkeepers that don't think that you have any cost of goods sold, and they don't have your chart of accounts set up this way, and they don't want to set it up this way. Tom, can you explain a little bit what we're calling cost of goods sold and why we're using a cost of goods sold model?
Yeah. Most bookkeepers, let's say bookkeepers, I'm going to say CPAs.
Yeah, accountants. Thank you.
Their job, or at least they think their job is to do your taxes. And to do your taxes, all they care about is revenue, which is the money that people paid you. They care about all your expenses in one big bucket. They don't really even care what those expenses are, and whatever's left over is net profit. That's what you're paying taxes on. We not only, I mean, it's just kind of general practice from a management accounting standpoint, that you separate your variable cost from your fixed cost. Variable costs traditionally are referred to as cost of goods sold. The sticking point comes in from like a nerdy accounting standpoint. We're not selling goods, we're selling services. Fine, call it cost of services sold. It's the same thing. So,
Tom, come closer to your speaker, if you could.
okay.
Much better.
Cost of services sold. So if you clean one extra home, what additional costs do you realize? And you're using a little more window cleaner, you're using another vacuum cleaner bag, but all of that's really what they call immaterial from an accounting standpoint. In a bigger sense, you want to know what that is and you want to track it and you want to know it. But for day-to-day planning purposes, I suggest for most cleaning companies, don't get, you spend more time, trying to get a really accurate number and not enough time managing your business based on what you already know. So when I say proxy, what I'm really talking about is this payroll to revenue number, which is basically the amount of every dollar that comes in from cleaning, what percentage of that goes to the technicians that are cleaning the home for you. And you can calculate that on a weekly basis by looking at your payroll and payroll expenses that go to your cleaning technicians divided by the revenue that those technicians generated. That's another discussion, but it's an easy calculation to do, and you need to be tracking that every payroll period. So my payroll to revenue is 40%. What that means is 40 cents out of every dollar that comes in is variable. It goes to my technicians. We're going to call that cost of goods sold. So this $35,000 basically is 40% of the 87.5. So every home I clean, 40 cents out of every dollar is going to go there. At the end of the month, whatever's left over is the difference between my revenue and cost of goods sold, which is this $52,500. That's the money I use to pay all my other bills, pay my rent, pay
all the fun stuff you want to do, parties for your employees,
marketing,
the extra help that you're going to have in your office.
Yeah, your office staff. What's left over after that is
all the stuff.
For companies that are struggling, though, to make the numbers work, to make enough money, to have enough money in the bank to make payroll and to pay the other bills and keep a roof over your head and actually have profit left over for that, a reward for taking the risk and doing all the hard work, more times than not, it's because this percentage here is too high and this number, the cost of goods sold, as a ratio to revenue is too high. And if it's too high, you're never going to clean enough homes to make enough money to do the things that you want to do. So that's why we worry about payroll to revenue so much, or gross profit. So if I want to raise rates, it scares me because if I do that, I'm going to lose customers.
Yes.
If I raise my rates, all my customers are going to fire me.
Or maybe not all of them, but enough of them that I can't afford it.
Yeah. So what this is a calculator that allows us to, once we know what our average bill rate is and how many jobs that we're doing and what our payroll to revenue is, we can play what if analysis. The fancy word for that is sensitivity analysis, but it's like what if games, okay?
Yeah.
What if, and if you see right here, I set the rate increase to 0 and expected job loss to 0. I've got two columns here with numbers in them. One of them says hourly or allowed hours pay, and the other is fee split pay or commission pay. So if I raise my rates 10%.
So allowed hours, just for people that don't know, allowed hours is the same thing as job ticket hour.
Job ticket hour.
And then fee split is the same thing as percentage, right? Or commission. Some people call it commission too. All right. So we're good.
So if I raise my rates across the board 10%, my bill rate per job goes from 175 to 192.50 in both columns, okay?
Yep.
For the moment, I'm going to say I'm losing 0 jobs or 0%. So I'm still doing 500 jobs a month, but my revenue goes up to 96,250. If I'm paying hourly or job ticket hour, my cost of goods sold is still at $35,000 because I'm paying based on the allowed hours, or I'm just paying a flat hourly rate, okay? So over here, my cost of goods sold or payroll to revenue is 40%. It goes down to 36.36% because I did the rate increase and I'm getting more money, but my cost of goods sold is the same. My gross profit goes up to 61,000 from 52. I got an extra gross profit of 8,750. That's the same as cleaning an extra 45 jobs a month in terms of gross profit without having to clean anything more. That's like a 9% increase in gross profit.
Nice.
Sweet.
Nice. Yeah.
And if I go over to fee split, it looks a little bit different when I get down here to cost of goods sold because I'm paying commission. So if I raise my bill rate, and some of that gets passed over to my technicians.
Yep.
So in that case, my cost of goods sold is still fixed at 40%. So my payroll goes up to 38.5, which leaves me 57,750. I've got 5,200 left over as extra gross profit. That's another 27 homes. Okay.
Yep.
What happens if we say, okay, well, I'm going to do a 10% rate increase. I'm going to lose some of my customers. But out of the 500, how many do we think would quit? Would 50 quit? Wow, that's a lot.
I don't think 50 are quitting. No.
Would 25 quit? I don't know. I've never done a rate increase with more than at the end of it 2 or 3 quitting, maybe 5.
We usually tell people in the circles, Tom, that if you're losing 3% or less, dude, that's good.
All so right? Let's do 3%.
Okay.
So all these numbers up here remain the same because this is before the expected job loss. Yep. I'm going to scroll down here, and this is after the expected job loss. So losing 3%, basically I'm losing 15 jobs a month, which gives me 485. I applied the new bill rate to 485 jobs. I've got revenue of 93.3, cost of goods sold of 33.9, gross profit of 59. Extra revenue, almost $7,000, $6,900 in extra revenue with the rate increase and a 3% loss. That's an extra 35 homes or 7%. So I've got an extra $6,900 left over every month that I wouldn't have had before with a 10% increase and a 3% customer loss.
And that's after the customer. Those 3% customers, they're gone.
Yeah, those 15 customers, those 15 jobs are gone.
Gone.
And if I'm doing, and people say, yeah, but I pay commission, so it's, it's different. I'll give you that calculation too. And it winds up to be $3,500 extra that you would have left over after doing the same calculation with commission pay. And the cool thing about commission pay is your technicians are now making more money as well. So you're keeping up with inflation, and
you don't have to give anybody raises. You don't have to do anything there. So,
and over the hourly part, this is all awesome. You got 6,900 left over, but if inflation is why you're doing this, your technicians are getting hit harder than, it's hard, if not harder than anybody. Mm-hmm. Keep your business going, to keep them going, you're going to want to pass some of that along to them anyway.
Right.
But you'll have it to do it, is the cool part. This is how you create better jobs. This is how you, create, better service. This is how you create a more awesome company, is by generating more gross profit.
A stronger company that can withstand much more.
So maybe it's 5%. I don't think it would be. 3%. And this is what happens. We talk about this in foundations. It's like it's a negotiation. Very rarely does somebody say, okay, I got your rate increase letter, I quit. Yeah. Got your rate increase letter, but doggone it, I still want my home cleaned. Can I talk to you about it? And they might not ask that way, but you'll want to talk to them about it. It's like, I can't afford this. Well, okay, well, let's figure out what we can do. And maybe we can adjust the scope of work. Maybe we can, maybe there's a couple bucks, you can take off. Maybe there's something you can do to make it a win-win without losing them.
All right, so this is the argument that I get on this, Tom, when I try to talk to people. I get this argument in foundations too. People say, no, I'm not going to negotiate my price. My price is my price. I'm a business. I shouldn't have to negotiate my price. They take it or they leave it.
Well, that's one way to look at it. And if that's one of your core values, and if, that's the way you want to do it, it's your business. You can, it's your privilege to do it. I can tell you though, if you want to be more profitable, it doesn't mean that you just basically just give it away and do what, all your negotiation doesn't mean giving in. Negotiation means looking for something that looks like a win-win, that you can keep the customer and still add to this gross profit number.
Still make more money.
If you negotiate well, you will have more gross profit. You'll have more net profit. You'll be creating more value for you, your employees, your customers. Everybody wins.
And an interesting, just a little tiny, I'm not going to call it a fact because it's not a fact, but point of reference. The businesses that we've ever had that conversation with have all been small. Right? We
Mhm.
don't have that conversation with large businesses that are regularly putting price increases in and are growing. That conversation doesn't come up. They're happy to negotiate. They understand the idea of negotiation. So it's a sticking point with the mindset many times, this idea that no, I have to do this because otherwise I'm not a real company. It's just a little bit of a misnomer, I think, about what people think a real company is sometimes. So
Yeah. Well, it's I get that, but
yeah,
you really don't want to, as a rule. I
yeah,
mean, there could be, you know, situationally, you've got a customer that you want to get rid of for other reasons, and you give them a rate increase and hope that they say they can't afford
no
it. And
thanks.
you say, I understand, we'll miss you. Um,
Good luck, Mrs. Johnson.
yes.
Here are some companies in the area that you might be interested in.
Yes. Your less favorite competitor.
Yeah, less favorite business owners. All right, this is awesome, Tom. Thank you. Maybe is it possible to share this
Sure.
with
If
people so they
anybody
can?
wants it, you can drop me an email, Tom at MaidCentral.com, and I'll be glad to share it with you.
And so you
Um,
can run your own what if analysis. And the thing that I think is really cool is if you really are concerned, okay, what if thanks, Tom. That's what I was
if I
going
go
to
to
ask.
10%, if I
10%.
go to 10% and I'm doing commission, okay, I'm losing money. But I go to even 10% loss, which is unfathomable. How do you like that? That's not even part of my working vocabulary. I don't know where that came from. That's hard to believe. I've still got $2,600 over here on hourly. Now, if I'm doing fee split and a 10% loss and 10% increase, I wouldn't want to do that. That's not a
Nope.
trade. That's not a trade worth making.
Nope. But then you can always, so two things there. You're probably not increasing all 500 of those jobs all at one time. So let's say that you did raise it too much, right? You raised it too high, you 10%, and for whatever reason, your market can't handle it. You just raised them 3 months ago, whatever, whatever the reason is. And you have, you've gotten 10% of your people that said, nope, I'm not doing it. Here's the time to negotiate. Okay. Maybe this was not your best strategic move. You don't have to, every time you do something in your company, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't mean that you have to stay wedded to that. Most of the decisions that we're making, we can change. We can change our minds. You know what? This was not my best decision. You find out that your favorite customer, Mrs. Johnson, who's been with you for 15 years and has always paid really well and has never been a problem, she says she's going to have to cancel. She can't afford it. You might want to rethink that, y'all. You might want to rethink that. Maybe this wasn't the time. Maybe it wasn't, maybe there was something wrong with your letter. I don't know, but maybe rethink it. And that's one of the reasons why we recommend that you not raise every single person all at the same time. Right, Tom?
Yes, absolutely. You want to ideally, especially in 2022, there was a time when rate increases were a lot more arduous. I mean, it was just a lot of work and a lot of manual stuff going on. It was, God, I hate
So hard.
doing rate increases.
Yeah. And it literally took resources, a ton of time to do that. You had to individually find them, do the math on how much this one client need to be. Oh my gosh, it was so hard. So hard.
But you can do this with a few click of a buttons in 2022, in which case you want to get on some type of cadence at least once a month. You want to be looking at, customers that you've had at an old rate. And, when inflation is 1% or less, that an annual increase probably makes sense. The rate increases that we've been doing within Castle Keepers, we say that, we're having to do rate increase for all the reasons that we're, inflation and so on and so forth. And we can't promise you that this will be the last increase you'll see this year. We set the expectation that, this isn't necessarily an annual thing anymore, because great, inflation dropped from 9.1% to 8.5%, but that still means year over year, prices are going up another 8%. So, doing 2 and 3% rate increases in an annual basis, you're way falling behind.
Yeah. I really like the strategy of talking to the clients and explaining that this might not be we hope that it will be the last one this year, but I like to use the verbiage, we're not optimistic the way things are going.
Wouldn't hold my breath.
Yeah, because things are tough. So Tom, I'm so glad that we have 6 more minutes here that we can talk about leadership books.
Well, we had a plan. Just
so,
like
this is a perfect example.
Yeah.
Just because you have a plan, if things go in a different direction, you can change your plan. That's a great thing about running your own business.
I've told you about my father-in-law who was a colonel in the Marine Corps, and one of his favorite sayings was make a plan and deviate, because he was like on the battlefield and bullets flying and so forth. So you always went in the battle with a plan, but as soon as the bullets start flying, you deviated from that plan based on new information. Oh goodness, they're coming from over there now. So instead of, we're going to do something different. Now. And business is kind of the same way. Once you need a plan, but once it's gay time and once things actually start happening, and especially knowing your numbers, and once you're able to start seeing the numbers, you deviate based on those numbers.
And I'm telling people all the time in the circles, so I want to see their plan in advance, because we do quarterly plans, right? And so we work by quarter. Yes, you have to have a plan, but if you're sticking to your plan all the time, there's a problem there. You're not actually evaluating what's happening. You should be, more often than not, you should be changing your plan up as you get closer. That's the standard. That's what we want. Change based on what is the incoming data that you have currently. If you're not doing that, chances aren't good that you're growing in a smart way.
Because if everything around you is static, if everything around you never changes, then you could argue that, well, I'm not going to change anything. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But everything around us is changing, and changing faster now than it used to, from inflation and the labor market and what's happening, on the consumer side. Yeah. And if we aren't making changes along with that, plus we need to be making changes to grow our business. Yeah. What core KPIs are we improving upon? And they're not going to improve. Occasionally they'll improve accidentally, and sometimes the numbers get better for reasons you don't even know. I did nothing and we're making more money. I've seen that happen.
Yep, me too.
It's an accident.
Yeah.
I'm accidentally making more money.
Don't even know what happened. And we have also really seen small companies get very lucky for quite a long time. You can get very lucky with a lot of stuff, doing just some basic stuff, but at some time luck runs out. Yeah. Then you have to start being a little bit more strategic.
And I'm really thinking the economy is going to get tougher here over the months ahead. And I'm really thinking that there's going to be, the competitive forces are going to change. And I wouldn't surprise me to see some of our competitors deciding that they no longer want to be competitors and get out of business. There could be some acquisition opportunities. And this gets into, a lot of things. If anything, any big purchases you're thinking about making, if you need to make it now or think you found a real deal, go ahead and do it. But if it's something that, I could do that now, or I could do it 6 months or a year from now, I would be waiting 6 months or a year from now. Odds are you're gonna find better opportunities.
Okay. I think that was a really good little piece of advice to leave people with for this leadership topic today. Even though we didn't hit any of our stacks of books.
Yeah, I gotta put all these back now, but yeah.
What's that one that you left in that stack over there, Tom? What's that one?
This is an awesome book. Everybody should have 100 or so of these.
And if you don't, I know where you can get 100 or so.
Yeah.
It actually is a good book. So we just happen to have a lot of them. If you want one, let us know. And when we see you at Foundations or at one of the next
I
Charleston
promise
events.
you we'll be giving these away at Foundations.
Yeah.
Or maybe some other live event. I saw this on the bookshelf. So, we will talk about this today.
Yeah. Why haven't we gotten it out?
We have about 100 or so of these. We inherited them.
We had a good deal. It was a good deal. That was at the Marcus Sheridan event in, where was it, Tom? Tucson,
not Tulsa.
Not Tulsa.
Those are different places.
Yeah, it was a good time there. All right. Well, Robin, thanks for joining us live today and having a lot of interesting input for us. Appreciate that. And what are we doing next week, Tom?
We're going to deviate a little bit from leadership. Aaron Lash is going to be with us from ARCSI, and we're going to be playing PHC Jeopardy. So it's PHC Technician Certification Program, the ARCSI recognized online training program for cleaning technicians. We have a Jeopardy game that we actually introduced at convention last year.
Yeah, it was fun.
Aaron's going to join us, and we're going to play Jeopardy. So if you think you know your stuff when it comes to the science of cleaning and the chemistry and safety and methods of materials and equipment and so on and so forth, come on and we'll test that. We'll get to compete against each other in a live, say Jeopardy, but it really isn't Jeopardy. I'm not saying that right. It's like a bar trivia game.
Yeah.
We all get an account. We can all play on our phones and answer the questions, and we can see, everybody's score at the end of each question. And I don't know. It's a bar trivia. Fun. Maybe we can have a drink while we're doing it.
For you guys, that's a little bit later than us, 2:00 in the afternoon. I guess you can drink it too, right?
What's your point, Liz?
Yeah. All right, y'all, bring your beer, I guess.
It is the top of the hour, so we'll be here next Wednesday with Aaron and PHC Trivia. Until then, you guys have a good week. Take care. Thanks. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye, y'all.